So we understand our site, the content within it, a lot of things about what we're doing here in .cms, but we haven't talked very much about hosts. Where is it that our site actually lives, and how do we modify or manipulate that? Now, this is one site that we have, but what if we are multi-tenant? We have multiple different sites that we are running and managing. If all of those sites can use the same files or similar files, then we could maybe just store those files centrally so that we could easily protect them and manage and manipulate them. Let's talk about how exactly we can do that using hosts. So if on the left we navigate to Settings and Sites, we can see any of our sites listed here. Now, if I want to add a new site, I can just click Add Site in the top right. Now I can copy an existing site or start with a blank site. Now, copying an existing site can be really helpful as well, but we'll get to that in a moment. Let's start with a blank site, and then we'll click Next. Now here we can add any aliases. We can provide a host name. In this case, I'm going to call this Global. This will be our global host, and we can access all of our VTL files from one place. We can choose where to store our tags, our host thumbnail, run a dashboard for this if we wish, add any metadata, etc. We can leave this nice and simple. We'll just add our global host name and then click Save/Activate. Our content's saved. We can close this, and now we have our global site. Now, if I click the dropdown on the very top right to the left of my notifications here, I can now choose my global site. Once I'm here, I can go to my site browser. I could go ahead and add in a new folder if I wanted to, and this can be my VTL folder. So now we have a folder stored centrally for all of our global VTL files. I could save this, and now we could add any of our VTLs into this VTL folder, and we could access those from any of our sites. The great thing about this is we're storing things centrally and we're managing it all in one place. And if our sites can pull the same VTL files from one location, then that's great. One thing that this does for us is it helps us avoid any misplaced permissions issues. If someone unintentionally applies permissions to an entire site, then that would allow people to maybe access VTL files that they shouldn't be accessing, things like that. We can store this all centrally in a totally separate, isolated site, but still access those VTLs and call upon them from other sites. That way we can avoid that possible issue. Now, we talked about creating a new site as well. If I go back to, say, my demo site here, we just go back onto our settings, sites. We could add another site, and we could copy an existing site. So I can choose to copy, click Next, and here I could choose which site I want to copy and what I want to copy. So I can choose to copy everything, just templates and containers, just folders, site variables, the content on pages, the content on the site, and menu links. And I can choose those individually. I can check and uncheck them as I please to make sure that I'm getting everything that I need onto my new site. This can be really helpful for creating multiple different sites that are all essentially identical. So if maybe we're creating the same site for different locations, the same site for different brands, we can do that. Whatever makes sense for your needs. Now, I should also mention that .cms has an API to copy sites as well. And that API gives you much finer grained control over what is and isn't copied. However, of course, copying sites this way is perfectly acceptable and much more easy to access if this suits your needs. The API simply offers you a bit more flexibility. Now, I want to point something out here. I'm going to click Cancel. And I'm actually going to get rid of my global site here. I'm going to right click it and choose Stop Site. Click OK. I'll right click again, choose Archive Site. Click OK. Then I can show my archived here. We can right click and delete it entirely. I'm going to delete that site. We don't need it. But I want to point something out. If I go to my content model, content types, I want to show you, look here, host is a content type. Now, if I wanted to, I could click on my host content type and add any fields here that I deem necessary. Now, what's great about this is if we are creating many ghost sites that we want to populate with unique values, we can do that by adding in any of these fields. One of the most common reasons to add a field to the host content type is to ensure that our sites each have unique API keys. For example, if I scroll down here on our fields, we'll find a Google Analytics field. This field allows me to input our Google Analytics key in any sites we create using this content type. Now, the benefit of this is that we can have common code which implements Google Analytics on all of our sites, but each site can have its own unique Google Analytics key, and our code can pull the appropriate key for whatever site it runs on.